Alright, continuing on with the Underworld franchise with the second film of 5. Underworld Evolution, which I don't have the case of right now because I can't find the damn thing. I actually had to watch this on Netflix because I had it, and then I didn't have it, and I cannot find it. So, I'm not exactly sure what the hell happened to it. I, showed it here in my Underworld video. I had it at the salon where I was going to watch it and then couldn't find it. So, yeah, anyway. Alright, so this one starts in the 1200s. Really cool opening. I have to say, this movie was really, really cool. Like, I like this one a lot. Like, more than the first. And I just watched Underworld Rise of the Lycans, which I liked a lot. But of the 3 so far, I have to say I think this is my favorite. This one's pretty badass. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in this one. I don't remember liking this one all that much. I didn't know what my memory of it was. But yeah, I really dug this. The transformations in this of the werewolves actually look a good amount better. They're still CG and they're still not perfect, but I did prefer the transformations in this one. But then in Rise of the Lycans, they went down again. They went kind of more like the original film, so it's kind of odd to see them look better here. And the practical werewolves, once again, are freaking fantastic. And man, this movie's violent. There's so much gore and decapitations and werewolves ripping things apart and vampires ripping werewolves apart. And I just was really digging the hell out of this movie. While I was watching it, I was like, damn, man, this is a really cool franchise. After having now watched 3 of the 5, I only got 2 left. I'll be very curious on how the next 2 hold up. But yeah, man, this is a pretty underappreciated, overlooked franchise. Like, I never hear anyone bring this up, but this is like a really cool fantasy, horror, action series. And I just, as I said, I almost never hear this franchise talked about. Especially like where people are always like, oh, where are the werewolf movies, this and that. When werewolf movies get brought up, I never hear this get brought up. And there's some badass werewolves. You get a ton of them in all of these movies. And when they're practical, they're awesome. They're like some of the best ever on screen, looking wise. And then the gore that comes with them and the way that they can move around and the big budget and all that, it's pretty badass. So, no wonder this thing has went 5 movies. This is a cool ass series here. So great opening fight sequence here in this 1200s time period, where Brother Marcus is there. Well, I shouldn't call him Brother Marcus, but Marcus is there looking for his brother William, who is the original Lycan. So Marcus is the original vampire. They're both of Alexander Vicovenus, and his brother William is constantly a Lycan. Like, he's always a Lycan, and it is an Intellution that you have a half Lycan, half human hybrid, essentially, where somebody is actually able to transform into a human. And so they decide to lock him up. He makes a deal with Victor that he's to be locked up. And pretty much the whole premise of the movie is that necklace that Lucien was wearing is part of a key, and the other piece of that key is in Victor's sternum. She has to, Marcus comes back, because at the end of the first one, we see that Marcus has been awoken, or awakened, and which is really cool, because in this one, when they show his little encasing tomb thing, the guy's still laying there dead, bleeding onto his, it's just really good continuity, which I was a big fan of when I saw it. I was like, oh, the guy's still laying there, his blood's still split, just like in the last movie. You know how I'm all about continuity. And because of that, he's already awakened. you know. And Craven goes there to try to kill him, and he's already up, he's already awake, and of course he dominates them. Marcus in this movie is badass. When he the way his creature design is, the way that he flies around, his his wings, and they become like spears, and then he's like the chase sequence where Celine and Michael and Marcus are all fighting, and they're in the truck, and he's chasing them, and they're fighting on the back of the truck. That action sequence is awesome, and he looks fucking awesome during that whole thing. He looks terrifying. This is a great vampire. It actually was kind of giving me vibes of the Creeper in Jeepers Creepers, especially after she hits him with the car and he's like trying to move around and his wings are like broken and such. Just very, very similar to the Creeper. Now, the romance, the romantic element, the romantic angle of Celine and Michael is expanded upon a little bit here. It's a little better here, but still not great. Still not great. They get a sex sequence, which is fine. I mean, sex sequences are sex sequences. They're always the same in almost every movie. Like, there's nothing really all that interesting to them. Unless you can start showing penetration, unless I can start seeing like full, explicit, X-rated sex in films. And the only real good reason to show sex in a movie is to show that people did it, which you don't even need to do. You can just see that they like laid down in bed together, and then you can show the aftermath of them there. I'm not like put off by them. I just usually find them to be rather trite, really boring. Like I'm like, okay, like it's very desensitized. It's all, or sanitized, sorry. It's very sanitized. So it's like, what good is it? Like, if I want to see a sex scene, I want it to be fucking sexy. That doesn't mean there hasn't ever been a sex scene that's sexy, where I'm like into it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is fucking erotic. This is kind of hot. But those are typically movies that's the point of them. Like, they're like, you know, softcore porn almost. But in this one, it's just the typical kind of sex scenes, and this would have been a great excuse for Kate Beckinsale to bear all for us, but she doesn't do so, and that's okay. We do get some titties in this, though, when they go to confront that other guy who knows what's up here, and they figure out that there's a tomb, that there's a prison that he's got. Well, not he. There's a prison where they've got William locked up, and then she figures out, like, oh shit, I have the map inside of me. Like, in my blood lies the map to where William is. I was there. My parents built this tomb for him, or this, you know, I keep calling it a tomb, but that's what it looks like. The thing they have him inside of. It's not like a jail cell. It's like a tomb. But yeah, they built this encasing. They built this structure so that to hold this thing. And then that's why Victor kills the parents. But then he can't kill Celine because he reminds her. She reminds him too much of his daughter Sonia. So he keeps her around, and because of this, now there is a location through her. And that is what Marcus is after, so he's coming after her. Now, I did have to laugh because Marcus has been entombed for 100 years. This was not his reign. He's supposed to be awakened like that month, that week, that day, or something. So he's been in the ground for 100, 200 years. I would make sense it was 200 because each one of them reigns for a century. It's his turn. So that would mean that Victor or the other one was reigning before him 2 times. So it'd be like 2 terms from them at 100 years apiece. So he's been in there for 200 years. So let's say that's right. He's been under there for 200 years now. He comes out and he instantly knows how to use computers and surveillance footage. Like, he's like typing on stuff and he's like, ah, there you are. 200 years. and he knows how to perfectly use. He knows what that is. Like, he looks at it and he's like, oh yeah, surveillance. Oh yeah, computers. I mean, he did drink from the Craven, and Craven would know how to do those things. So I guess you can just steal everyone's memories and catch up to date. You just like grab a newscaster and just bite right into them, and then you know every current event. And then you go and you grab like a scientist or a doctor or a lawyer, and then you're just like, oh, now I know how to be a doctor. I can go pass the exams, or oh, I know how to be a lawyer now. Now I can just go take the bar. It's like the Matrix. I know kung fu. He could do that. He could just go bite fucking like Bruce Lee or something, and know kung fu. That'd be pretty badass. That'd actually be a cool vampire movie or something like that, where you can just go steal abilities from people just by like absorbing some of their DNA. It's been done, of course. Everything's been done. The Simpsons did it, right? I'm sure the Simpsons did do that at some point. And I like that Michael tries to go out against Celine's, she tries to tell him, like, you're not going to be able to not feed. Like, you got to feed. Here's the blood, do it. Or otherwise you're going to kill people. And you don't want that on your conscience. And so he goes out to this place and tries to just eat normal food. And he's like, fuck you, I'll eat whatever I want. And that immediately makes him, start to change, freak out. And then, he's getting into a fight at the bar and all of that stuff with the cops and whatnot. When Craven's killed, the gore is solid. Like, he gets his head cut off. A lot of, as I said, lot of great gore in here. Speaking of the sex scene, I think I brought this up in the past, but do you think when he goes down on Celine's Underworld that he prefers her to be on her period? Makes sense, right? Or, vampires are into blood, he's into blood. He's half vampire. So he's like, is it that time of the month? Because I want to go down under. I've thought that for so many years. Of course that's where I take it. Of course it's where I take it. And alright, let's see. I like that the guy that they go to interrogate has werewolves as guard dogs, which actually is for the time that he's from, which they explore in Underworld Rise of the Lycans, where they use them as literal guard dogs and slaves. And Celine takes on 2 werewolves with knives, and then Michael comes down and rips one of their freaking heads right off, and it's badass. There's a lot of decapitation at the mouth of werewolves in this franchise. So they got to come up with a better way to start killing these things, because as cool as it looks, you don't want it to become too repetitive. Yeah, there's also this lie detector in your blood. So when Marcus comes, or Marcus comes and he interrogates that guy, the guy tries to lie to him, and Marcus is just kind of like, okay, boom, bites him, and he's like, you're lying, dead. You can't hide. So I'm not really sure. I would think that Celine would just kill him. Then he would, maybe he can just lap up the blood. You'd have to kill him and burn his body so there's no blood. Then he would have no idea where to find them. That's how he finds the location of where they're going, which is where they're going is they meet Alexander Kavinas. Now, this is very uneventful. This should have been a much bigger thing. Like, this is a guy that's been talked about through both films, and he is the creator of the werewolves and the vampires. He's like this big deal, and he's in this movie for like 5 minutes, and he's just killed off by his son. And it's supposed to be this big moment, but it's like, I've heard your name a bunch, but you and your son haven't spoken or seen each other in how many years? Hundreds? And then he just kills him, and that's it. It's really not that eventful. So that was kind of a misstep, and not really focusing on Celine and Michael's relationship again. As I said, it's a little better in this, but not much. And I got a bunch of freaking crap on my paper, so I can't even read these notes. I don't even... Oh, yeah. The reason he kills his dad because he thinks he's a god. So, although... And he tells him, like, a god can't have a father. This guy's delusional. A Tex? What? Tex could live. Doesn't want to. Oh, yeah. So what's interesting is that Alexander could live here, but he decides not to. He's just like, my time's come, I'm done. I mean, after you've been alive for 1,000 years, you're probably like, dude, I'm done. I've seen enough. I've been around long enough. You know, I'm hurt enough to die. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. I don't need any more. I just figured he would be such a bigger deal. They mention him so much, and then he's just kind of throwaway. So that, to me, that's just a giant misstep. And then he drinks from she drinks from Alexander, and this is where Celine becomes more. She becomes kind of that next step in the evolution. Drinking from him makes her some kind of hybrid as well, and now she can walk in the sun, so she's like a day walker, which was really cool. That must have been exciting for her, having not, you know, seen the sun or been able to, you know, have the sun on her face for like 600 years. My good God, you definitely miss the sun. The William wolf. So they go and they free William from his cage, and he's like this big white wolf, and he's like, he is one of the coolest fucking werewolves I've ever seen in my life. It's so cool. I like love the idea of different colored werewolves now. I'm like, I want a blue one, and I want a it was funny when I was watching it. I was like, a white one. Ooh, that's cool. It's like the abominable snowman and a werewolf in one. This is a really badass looking, like the white wolf. It's a really cool looking wolf. I dug it. And then the helicopter comes down and lands and catches, and there's like this propeller blade. They're fighting next to the propeller blade, which is a really intense fight, man. It's just like right behind him. You know Celine's not going to go into it, but then she takes Marcus and she fights him there, and she cuts his hand off and then kicks his ass right into it, and it just mulches this guy's body. He goes everywhere. It's awesome. And then she impales his head too with his own spike that he sticks through. She pulls it out herself, just shoves it up through his head, and then kicks him right into the thing. It's a badass sequence. As I said, no one talks about this, but this is some violent ass shit in here. Very graphic, good action too. Really fun fight sequences and action sequences. I was really into it. So yeah, now I'm very curious on where this franchise heads in Awakening. I'm looking forward to seeing what the hell this is all about, because I did see these. I saw Awakening, which I remember having a huge issue with some sequence of how they defeat the main villain. They were like, we'll see if my memory serves me correctly, but I remember being in the theater and they were like, you can't defeat him like this. And that's like kind of how they talk about it throughout the whole film. And then that's exactly how she defeats him. And I was like, huh? So I'm really curious to go back and rewatch this one and see if that's accurate, and really pay attention to be like, is there a way that this could happen that I'm not seeing? And then this one, Blood Wars, I know I saw it, but I don't remember it at all. Like, at all. I do not remember a second of this film. That's crazy to me. But, yeah, I look forward to it. So, adios.